So until you're ready to get freaking serious and honest with yourself, then you will not be able to know, okay, I actually want X. A lot of business owners really just want the freedom to do what their zone of genius is.
Right.
And to do that, they have to, as the great Dan Martell says, you have to buy back your time to
Love
do
that
that.
book.
Okay, great. So we find out what is your end goal, reverse engineer it, and then we build the culture off of that.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today, I always say rock stars, but this one's it's a little close to home on this one. He's definitely a rock star, and he turns teams into revenue-generating powerhouses. He's the co-founder of Sales League, Josh Alltop. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Kirby.
Absolutely. So I gave a little bit of a teaser there, but you have kind of a cool journey. You went from music producer to a top-tier salesperson. Can you talk about that journey and kind of how that came to be?
Yeah, no, it's funny. I've told the story about a 1,000 times, and even my current mentor / coach is like, yeah, you're going to tell it about 10,000 more just because it's marketing, right?
Yeah, it's unique.
So I spent 25 years pretty much in the music industry, grew up playing, in the church world, learning that way to playing, I remember my first battle of the bands that we won. I had to sneak out of my house because my father was a pastor, and I had to sneak out to go play the battle of the bands. I might've been 15 years old, and it was at some club, and we won, and it was hysterical. It was a bunch of high schoolers winning a battle of the bands. And it was great. And we had, a good time. And I've spent my career basically either making records or playing drums on records and traveling the world, and it was great. I mean, it wasn't like some huge name where you're playing with some top tier A-list artist, but I wasn't just playing small things, so I felt like I got to see the world, and it's fantastic. Yeah. And then basically I met a friend around 2009. I met him in 2017, and he started asking me questions around 19 and 20 and was like, hey, how are you going to achieve your goals? And I said, well, I'm gonna write a song as a producer. I'm gonna write a song, and it's gonna hit it really big. And he was like, what does that even mean? I go, well, actually, I don't know. I've been doing this for 20 years. I still don't have an answer to that question, but I'm gonna make it big, and I'm gonna make it. And he's like, so you have no quantifiable way to actually say how you're going to achieve your goals. And I said, well, no, this is the normal process. And I went through that. Through that conversation, I realized one thing. There was about 8 people that got to determine if my efforts and my energy actually made me money. So all the hard work that I put into it, was I going to be rewarded? Was it going to yield to me a return for the input that I was putting into it? And what I found out was I didn't get to control that in any way. And as a person, I am I like to have control, not like dictator control, but more or less like I want to know if I put in effort that it will yield some type of return.
Yeah.
And so then fair. I get into it, and I find out and he's like, well, why don't you come sell for me? I was like, oh, I've never done sales. He's like, oh, you have been doing sales your whole life. You don't even realize it. I was like, well, I've never taken an actual sales call. He goes, you have, but I get what you're saying. So I go in on a Thursday. I'm supposed to have lunch with him. It turns into an interview. He offers me a job. I accept it, and I start work on that Monday, and I turned down 6 months of rights, and that was almost 4 years ago now, and I've never looked back. Wow. So it was like, a smoker quitting cold turkey on cigarettes, and I just and I didn't even know that I didn't go back. That's what's weird. It was so natural. I went from producing records to producing people, and I fell in love with sales. Hit crazy numbers within my first year. I think in my first 18 months, I did something like $6 million, had, average 50% collection, or close rate, had high collection rates. And I just loved it. I fell in love with it. And then I started teaching people. And then I started, because I've always led and I've always taught, but normally it was music or some type of something in that degree, which then turned into what we do now, which is the Sales League, where we basically help businesses cash flow or cash out by educating, equipping, and empowering their sales teams and the systems, which is funny because we work with so many marketing agencies. Because if you think about it, marketing agencies were in the same boat that I was in as a musician, which is I do all of this work, I generate all of these leads for people, and yet how do I know they're actually even going to get closed or stewarded or actually have the proper, we're seeing on average 12 to 15 touch points per lead right now before they'll even close. And it's like, most of these salespeople don't do that. Call, maybe they double dial, they'll send in and they're like, marketing, you're supposed to engage, you got a bunch of fat cat closers who won't actually do their job. So then we've been partnering with marketing agencies and saying, hey, partner with us. We'll come in and we'll whoop those sales teams in shape. So that way, all that effort and energy that you're doing will actually, you can quantify and actually say, hey, it's going to yield me X result. So it's a long-winded answer.
No, it's great. It's great, and I loved what your mentor who hired you said. You've been in sales, you just don't know it. I say that about everybody. I think everybody's actually in sales, whether they have the formal training or not. So, look, we talk a lot about culture in business today. So, how do you create? Because you talked about coming in and helping whip the sales team into shape. How do you create a culture of top sales performers?
Yeah, that's great. It's almost, a lot of people would say culture is top down or it's bottom up, right? They're going to say one of two. I think it's both at the exact same time. Okay, so go with me.
Yeah.
Now, there's probably some brilliant person that's listening to your podcast right now. I'm like, this dude has no idea what he's talking about. Don't listen to him. But I'm just going to give you my experience. That's all I can give you. My experience in culture, whether it was in the music industry, now it's in the marketplace and the business side, has been this. So many things rise and fall on great leadership, right?
Yep.
But at the same aspect, I've been in bad leadership and still succeeded. Why is that? Because I was able to take extreme ownership as a person and say, okay, I can't control all of these other variables, but I can control me or my variables. So what can I control? So what we do to build great culture is twofold. One, we get with leadership and we find out, what do you actually want? Don't just say better leads. I want people to do their job and all that. It's like, great, then you don't want to be a successful business owner if your answer is that. Because power comes from self-honesty. So until you're ready to get freaking serious and honest with yourself, then you will not be able to know, okay, I actually want X. A lot of business owners really just want the freedom to do what their zone of genius is. Right. And to do that, they have to, as a great Dan Martell says, you have to buy back your time to do that. Okay, great. So we find out what is your end goal, reverse engineer it, and then we build the culture off of that, right?
Yeah.
We are lead indicator centric, not lag indicator.
Yes.
Right? So then we go to the sales team and we try to go bottom up with them and top down with the leadership. So hopefully in the middle, they will meet and they will realize that they both need each other. They both need to learn how to talk to each other. The same with marketing. We tell sales all the time. I'm like, hey, marketing is sales and sales is marketing. And it's one big ecosystem. And I have a lot of marketing friends all the time. Like, Josh, you're an idiot. They're two completely different things. Their applications might be, but at the end of the day, is it still not to take somebody who raised a hand that says, hey, I might have a problem or a need in which you have a solution for, and I would like to know more. Now, how that person accomplishes it and solves that problem, maybe we divide that or, compartmentalize that out into marketing and sales and fulfillment. But at the end of the day, aren't we just simply saying, hey, do you have a problem? Are you open to getting help solving that problem? And are you qualified to getting help solving that problem?
Yeah. No, I think, and it is fascinating to me to see how many organizations of sales and marketing are not aligned. It's just weird. And by the way, you're speaking my language. I love the book "Buy Back Your Time," and I'm a preacher of lead versus lag as well. So I love what you're talking about there. So when you come in, how important do you think it is to have systems and processes in place if you want to grow big sales?
I don't think it's possible to grow without systems and processes. So I think you can have flash in the pan, right? Success, right? I think you can, hit it lucky. You could time the market perfectly. You can have those moments, but you cannot. I have not yet seen, in my experience, in my short time on this earth, I have yet to see sustainable success happen without systems and processes. Yeah. So we are big advocates when we come into a business. A lot of times fractional sales management or fractional sales, whatever, they'll come in and they'll be like, all right, we're going to fix all these things, and they'll jack up your CRM, and then they'll throw all these new comp plans, and they try to change everything because they're trying to make a splash like, yo, look at what we did. And here's the deal. We did the same thing too when we were first getting started because we thought that's what needed to happen. And then when you sit with these business owners, they're like, I just want to grow by X amount in the next 6 months. Okay. We don't need to change everything. Even though your CRM might be garbage, we don't need to change it to accomplish that goal. So what are 1 to 2 things that we can address right now? You know that analogy you always hear, at least in sales, you hear it. First, we fix the bleeding artery, and then we deal with the paper cut.
Yeah.
We look at the business and we say, in regards to you accomplishing that desired outcome, what is the bleeding artery that is stopping that, or the bottleneck that is stopping that? Yeah. We address that. And then we make a system out of everything. So anytime we just did something in the business recently, we onboard clients constantly. So clients come to work with us. Let's say a marketing agency says, hey, I want to grow. We have 1 to 2 salespeople at least, and we want to grow and scale and have a sustainable, lead flow and deal flow. So, okay. So as we were onboarding them, I noticed something in our onboarding. So I did this. I said, hey team, because we voice note everything right now. Because me and my business partner, Jake Grant, we are phenomenal at talking and horrible at typing. So,
fair.
So we voice text everything. And I said, hey team, I noticed this is happening in our onboarding process. It's not good. It's causing a bottleneck for how they, integrate into us. Moving forward, this is exactly how we're going to do it. And this is what we're going to do. Can you, 1, document this? For this client. 2, I want you to create a new SOP, add it to our onboarding SOP, and moving forward, this is what it will look like. Because I don't like repeating myself. I despise it. So how can I fix that? Document the tar out of everything, make a system, put it in a place, and live and die by it until I find that it's not useful. Once its utility is wore off, fix it, adjust it, and change it. But the reason why I say that, to answer your question, if you don't have those systems, then you're going to get so bogged down. Because for me, the hardest part about my job is not all of the details that go on. The hardest part is dealing with that human being that constantly is changing day in, day out, because they have things that are going on. So for me to accurately assess what another human being is going through, I need to minimize any decision fatigue. SOPs just help you get rid of decision fatigue. It's like, I don't have to think company A wants to come on and work with us. Great. Hey team, we just onboarded so-and-so. They have a Slack workflow. I fill it out. It populates some big data form that my partner created, and then they onboard them. Great, awesome. Now I only have to actually think about that onboarding call, or now I only have to think about having that one-to-one. So-and-so is struggling with their KPIs. They haven't been consistent. Great, Slack form. So-and-so needs a one-to-one. They need this. Click a button, boom. Schedules the meeting, does this, does that. That's a system and a process that now allows me to not think about how do I set up the meeting, but how do I get a result on that meeting?
Right.
Does that, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I really love seeing you kind of walk through it mentally too, which is really helpful, I think, for somebody like me. So that's really good. Okay. Final question, man. We've dug deep here. What are some shifts you need to make sales? Let me go back. What are some shifts you needed to make to succeed in sales? And what shifts do you see others need to make? Sorry. Word salad
Great
there.
Question. I think the biggest shift I had to make at the beginning of my sales career is realizing nobody needs another friend. Your prospects are not in need of friends. They are in need of solutions. And that means that most people get caught in the friend zone because they're trying to build so much rapport and build so much relational equity. I have a lot of family and friends who are in the medical sales field. And there's a lot of rapport building in medical sales. They have very long sales cycles sometimes. My brother-in-law and father-in-law are both epic at medical sales. And it's not because they're the greatest objection handler in the world. It's because they make that doctor or that clinic or whomever feel like they actually matter, because they matter. But they're not trying to be their friend. They're trying to be there. I think if you're a business owner, if you're a sales professional, if you're anybody, if you would take the approach in that moment, they're not trying to be my best friend. They need me to actually serve them. The byproduct of service, I think, means that your pocketbooks are going to be aligned. Your P&L is going to be right. Your savings account will be. I truly believe that the byproduct of serving people is wealth, because I'm not wealth-centric. I'm people-centric. I'm service-centric. And it's always helped me make a lot of money. So I don't see how that is a lose-lose. It's a win-win situation. So I would say get out of the friend zone. first and foremost, when you're on that phone call, that Zoom call, you're in person, however it is that you engage with your prospect, actively listen to them, hear what they're saying, and then also think about what they're actually saying on the things that they're not saying. Because most time that prospect in any situation actually hasn't truly thought through their symptom or their problem. They've only thought through the symptoms, because they always misdiagnose. They'll say, oh, this is my problem. And it's like, oh gosh, no, it's not. Big dog, no, it's not. Sweetheart, no, it's not. That's not your problem. You think that's your problem. That's the symptom of the real problem. But in that moment, that might be their first time that they truly self-diagnose. Oh God, why do we do this? Why have we been struggling? Why is this the case? Why can't we seem to accomplish X? Great. Now I'm going to ask you some questions, and they might be hard. It's the difference between being nice and kind, but I'll say what's needed, because the number one priority is to do what's best for that prospect in that moment at all times. Whatever needs to be said, done, or accomplished, I will do for them. And the byproduct is, whether I close that deal or not, I'll still make my money. I'll still hit my KPIs, because I'm going to be focused on what matters. And I think if you can take that shift and that paradigm shift in your mind, it's something so simple. See how I didn't address objection handling? I didn't address follow-ups and closing. We can talk about that all day. We do that in the sales league. We'll show you how to educate, engage, and entertain all day long. Get people back on the calendar who no-show. I love teaching people, don't worry about your closing percentage. Just increase your show rate. Get your show rate up, all of a sudden, no matter what you're batting at, you're just going to close more because you have more at bats.
Right. Yeah.
And over time, we can fix your closing percentage, because we will help you, as we say, sharpen your axe, right?
Yeah.
Hone that in.
Yeah.
But just focus on listening, active listening, and stop being people's friends. You can serve them without being their bestie.
That's really good, Josh. I love it. Get out of the friend zone and make some more sales. Josh, where can people find more information about you and the Sales League?
Yeah, super simple. Thesalesleague.com. And you can also, Instagram and TikTok, apparently, that's the place to be, so it's so funny. I'm not a big diehard social media person, but it's very valuable. So we do it. And, so it's great. So at Josh Alltop or at the Sales League on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, X Twitter. I don't know what you do. So, yeah.
Whatever you get. That's cool.
Thanks, Elon. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Josh, thanks so much. This has been really fun. And I definitely would love to do this again sometime. Okay.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.